Good morning. I think it's the first talk, so it must be a little kind of weird to start the talk with a bank being here and talking about their DevOps transformation. And thank you, Gene, for the kind introduction. My topic of my talk is banking on innovation and DevOps. Before I do that, I want to say that I'm really honored to be here and to present Capital One's journey to become modern day's technology organization. I have been a traveler, a fellow traveler in this journey, and a lot of times I've been leading some of the key initiatives that are going on in Capital One in terms of DevOps, open source. More than sharing my story, I'm here to learn a whole lot more from you guys. And this has been an awesome conference. And can I just pause here and ask for a big round of applause for the organizers? Thank you. Thank you. Before I begin my talk, I want to talk about Capital One. Most of you know that Capital One is a credit card company. We are one of the largest in the US with over 70 million accounts. Many of you know that we are also one of the largest banks in the country. In fact, we are the largest digital bank in the country. But I don't know how many of you know that we are a small technology company led by our founder, and we are just 20 years old. If you look at the chart, our closest peer is about 5 times older than us. So we are kind of a startup in the banking industry. But we disrupted the credit industry with our leader's vision. He thought that every single person in the US had the same credit card, and it made absolutely no sense. So we wanted to fulfill that vision. We used data, technology, and data science to execute an information-based strategy. We designed products based on customers' needs, passions, life stages. It's not one size fits all. Everybody had different needs. We made adjustment to our products and offerings based on the data analysis, the results that showed up in that process. We predicted business results before full-scale market deployment. And we have been doing big data even before the term big data was coined. But we had this concept or this notion of banking in our head, and we wanted to change that to become a digital bank. Digital is our new branch. What's striking is in which mobile has become the preferred channel for banking. It's a complete digital revolution. Look at this chart. If you notice that right now, mobile banking usage is about double the size of the usage on the web. So it becomes almost given that we need to transform our core software engineering practices to compete with that kind of advancement in mobile technology. This is what our leader says. Ultimately, the winners in banking will have the capabilities of a world-class software company. And that is our current focus, to be a world-class software and technology company. But it took some time to get there, because our core value was data analytics. We are not so good in delivering software. This is about 4 years ago. We are mostly outsourced. We are waterfall. Even though waterfall looks good on a picture, in a software industry, it's no good. We did quarterly releases. We released software very carefully, slowly, with lots of planning, lots of documentation, meetings, approvals, tickets, so on and so forth. And we had manual processes all over the place. right from building software to testing to deployment, meeting, all those things. And the most amazing was the change order process. I'll tell you a story about that. So I was hired at Capital One as a SOA architect like 5 years ago. This is my 5th year running. And I was in a design review meeting, or not a design review meeting, it's like a code review meeting. And people came up with a problem saying that their testing is failing because of some mismatch between the WSDL on the client side and the server side. And what came out is that one XML tag field was kind of mismatching, cast lname versus cast last name or something. And testing was failing. Now everybody was thinking what to do. I said, change it. I know what you're thinking. And people kind of looked at me and saying, change what? I said, the tag. Well, we can change it on your laptop, but that's where it ends. It's not going anywhere. I said, what do you mean it's not going anywhere? If I change it and commit my code, it should get built automatically and get tested automatically and stop it. Right? So what happened was it came to a point where to change the tag name, you needed to have some kind of change order because the people who coded are outsourced company, and they didn't want to touch any code unless you asked them with all these processes. So I kind of said that I need to do something about it, maybe just automate the build process, and that's where I started with the seed of DevOps. We didn't call it DevOps at that point because I think the DevOps term was kind of emerging in the industry. It was pure simply, how do I automate my build process? And then we brought in some other concepts also, such as a good static code analysis tool, a good binary repository, and we did like some campfire. We took a small team, did all this stuff, and we found some good results. Initially, before all this, the build used to take like 48 hours, 2 days at least, if everything went well. And if something broke, it came back, and then you had to submit a ticket, manual ticket, to get your software built. But with this, the build just happened in minutes, as you all know. And then we shared these amongst our peers and leaders. And then that resulted in many campfires. Now, before it went kind of out of control, we paused a little bit and thought that maybe we need to build a strategy around DevOps for the whole enterprise. I was, as a part of enterprise architecture, as an enterprise architect, as I said. So we thought that it must be a good idea to build an enterprise-level strategy around DevOps to actually tell people what DevOps means. And this is what we came up with. We have the development teams, which had architecture, design, coding, and testing. And of course, this is business coming closer to the development, typical agile transformation. To get our builds done in time, deployments done in time, with a lot of automation, we needed operations to come closer to the development. And at the same time, there was this movement going on in the company about going from waterfall to agile. And I showed this picture to everybody. Everybody nodded their head. And then the last one was with InfoSec. And they said, yeah, sure. You are doing that. How about security, application security, and all that? You can deploy your code to development, but then we need to scan and look at many things. So I said, why don't you guys help me? And there it was. So information security said, we are going to come closer to the development and see what you are doing and try to help you. And we call that DevOpsSec. You call it rugged DevOps, DevOps security, or just pure DevOps. It's the same thing. Get all the people who has a stake in that software delivery lifecycle, come closer and do the same thing. This is our DevOpsSec pipeline. Everything as code. And then we build it, we deploy and do the test execution, and then we release and monitor. Pure simple. everything is code, infrastructure is code, application is code, test, of course, it's code, and everything is checked into source control. Nothing is sitting on somebody's laptop on some server. Everything is source control, and it is peer-reviewed before it gets merged to the main branch. You can do pull request or feature branching or whatever, but the idea is the same. It gets built and then deployed in many environments, starting from dev to int to QA to security to performance, all the way to production. And lots of test automation happens in every step. Sometimes they get manually promoted to the next environment. Sometimes they are automatically promoted to the next environment. And then we release the infrastructure code and application code. We also support tools like service virtualization, test data management, browser and device farms to automate many things in the process. One thing that is striking about this pipeline is I have to say that there are two news. One is good, one is bad. The bad news is it's never going to be perfect. You'll keep working on modifying this pipeline till cows come home. The good news is it's only going to get better. The flow of events go from left to right. Feedback is on the other side. But there was a problem, building server in a data center. I can do all these if there are servers available to me. Now, what we found is that building a server in a data center is not easy. 62 steps, 60 days at least, and these are some rough numbers. It can be different from you, but that's kind of the ballpark. $25,000, but that's not all. The pain, and every time that happened, I felt like this. And the opportunity cost, who knows? So what we thought is we'll basically go this route, public or internal cloud, and we called it a next generation infrastructure team. And I'm a part of this particular team. Our goal is to actually not have developers wait for any infrastructure for doing anything. They can go from code to deployment to wherever they want with whatever kind of infrastructure they want, just with a click of a button. We had been running our dev and QA environments on public cloud for a while now, but we have actually moved to production with some of the public clouds. And we also heavily use our internal cloud, and we want to actually verify what we do is correct before we move on to public cloud. And we did this too. Right now, we are running some of our critical production load in Docker container on public cloud. And being a bank, I think that's huge. By the way, we also launched our first open source tool in July during OSCON. And the reason I bring this up because while doing public or private cloud and Docker containers on cloud, we did a lot of toolings ourselves because the whole area is not matured enough. So we went to production with the toolings that we developed internally. And as a part of DevOps, this is one product that I'm proud of. We use that to actually track health of our software delivery pipeline. And we thought that we should open source this so that people can use it. I'm the community manager of this product, and I'm also a core committer of this product. And our internal committers are from dev, ops, quality engineering, delivery transformation team. You can go onto this GitHub site, github.com/Hygia, and you can find out there's a good video on this, but I'll give you a preview of that here. It's a single dashboard where you can see the features that your team or the product team is working on, the coding activities. It can plug into your source control. It shows kind of status of your coding activity over the last 14 days, like through 2 sprint cycles. It gives you overall view of your build health, the failed builds, the past builds. It gives you statistics on how many builds you are doing over last 7 days, last 14 days, how many you have done today. It gives you a view of your software quality and shows you if you have any blocker or critical defects in your source control, your unit test coverage. Yeah, and it also can show you some security vulnerability in your code if you can tie into some of these commercial products that you may have. It also gives you a deployment view in your environments and shows you whether your environment is up or down. It also has sort of a pipeline view where it shows your component life cycles through dev, QA, int, performance, and production, the versions. And in the next releases, which is coming out soon, we are going to have a cloud view, number of instances that you have been running, how many are tagged correctly, how many are encrypted versus non-encrypted. By the way, this is just some sample data, not the actual data. All our instances are encrypted. And the number of instances that are up for a while, and you're not bringing them down, and the CPU utilization on all these instances. You can get a list of all these things just by clicking any of these charts. The whole idea is to manage your cost and health of your instances on any cloud environment, because in your cloud environment, if the instances are running for long, it's no good, because then you're losing the patch cycles and all that. And there are more to come. We have developed some awesome tools in-house to help our data analysts, and we call that Analytics Garage. What it is if you look at any data analyst, they want to use a lot of tools in isolated form, and every day they ask for new tools. So we have built a platform, Docker-based platform, that will help analysts to actually launch an instance with some specified tool or tools of their choice, run their analytics, get the result out, and kill that instance just by clicking a button. We will be open sourcing this sometimes early next year. We also developed a tool which is basically a push button for getting developers' environment. Our goal is to have a developer join Capital One on the first day, get his or her laptop, then start coding, and deploy that code to production on day one. And this is kind of going towards that. That is not all. We have been actually contributing to open source for a while, for about 18 months. But before I go there, this is one of our blog sites, capitalone.io. We have been posting technical blogs over there, and we'll be announcing our future software, open source software releases in that blog post. These are some of our open source contributions. We have lots of people contributing to many of these GitHub repositories, as well as these known open source softwares, starting from Hadoop to D3, Apache Stack, Spark, Storm, Solar, Jenkins, Elasticsearch, Nginx, and all. Now, there's a reason that we are doing this. The question is, why are we open sourcing our tools? Any guess from the audience why we are open sourcing our tools? I just want to know what people feel, because I've been attending many conferences, and I've been in the booth in OSCON and many other places, and people ask me, why are you open sourcing your tools? Any guess from the audience? I just wanted to make it a little more interactive. I heard recruiting, better quality, good development, and building a community. But I think it is the right thing to do. Because, thank you. Because if I ask the audience, how many people don't use open source? Guess what the answer would be. But if I ask how many people use open source, all hands will go up. I think it's for too long that open source communities have been carrying big enterprises like ours on its shoulder. And I think it's time to give back. Time to give back to the community and be a part of it. And we have been using open source, unknowingly for a long time. But right now, we are quite open and honest about it. Our policy is open source first. So if somebody is looking for a tool and asks for permission to use some tools, if it is not open source, then they need to clarify why it is not open source. So anything that you want to use in a company, it must be open source first. Second thing is culture of continuous experimentation and learning. The third way of DevOps. Thank you, Jenkins. So what it does is basically gives developers and all the people involved in the whole delivery pipeline to actually experiment with many things. And if it is open source, you are free to experiment. You can actually create your own tools and see how it feels like. It fosters culture of innovation and experimentation throughout the organization. Open sourcing makes it better. You all know that you have teams in your company who are actually developing tools, and you go and ask them and say that, can I take this tool and have the other guys use it? And they go, oh, no. So the only way you can do that, and make it better, is tell them that that's a great tool, and we want to open source it. And then you find amazing things happen. The tools get better from day one. We found it inevitable to do DevOps security the right way. And the reason I say is this. So when you are transforming all our, the whole CI/CD pipeline to start with, we said that there are going to be only one copy of one library of one copy of one version of a particular library in the binary code repository so that we can check for security vulnerability and the legal vulnerability. And what we found was that prior to that, developers had all these different kind of libraries. I don't know where they came from. They're in their own code repository, and it was very hard to manage. So we said that, OK, let's figure out where these libraries came from. And what we found was that some libraries were already modified, and some libraries were kind of collection of other libraries, and they're all sitting over there. So we said that, OK, first thing is we need to clean that up, but most important is what do we do with the things that we have already modified? And the answer was, I don't know. So I said, how about giving it back to the community? And then we are not allowed to, but we have already modified. Why can't you give it back? So we started talking with our lawyers. And that's an amazing story. So one of my colleagues, he had been very vocal in this area in our company. He and I said, OK, let's do something about it. Let's get our acts together. Let's talk to the lawyer to see what they see as our notion of giving back to the community. So we had a huge list of things that we wanted to give back to the community, and we are looking to meet the lawyers. And there was a meeting set up. In our company, the lawyer is sitting in a different section where you need a special badge to get in. So the meeting room was inside that particular section. And he and I go there, and the door was not open, and our badge was not working. He was trying to call the lawyer, the legal VP, and he was not responding, and the meeting time was up, or almost 5 minutes late. So he started knocking on the door. Please open the door, please open the door. And I think that was hilarious, but it also tells you the motivation that our people have to solve for things that they really care for. I think that was a great story to share. Where are we now with all this? Many of our early adopters, or the teams, or the product teams, are seeing some amazing results. Some of these teams are heading towards a zero-touch continuous deployment model, but at a high level, code commit from random occurrence to hundreds per day for a given product team. Integration, which is end-to-end integration with all the other things, dependencies, from 1 month to about 15 minutes, every 15 minutes. Deployment, manual to completely automated. QA performance once a month to at least 4 times a day. Production release, monthly or quarterly to at least once per sprint. Unit tests are unknown at that time, 4 years ago. Now it is about 90% plus coverage, which is pretty good. On the other side, we also found some good statistics on defects during release. We saw about 60% defects reduction in production. The feature delivery rate has been increased by 50%, and these are some rough numbers. We are trying to get more stats around it so that I can present it in an official way. How do you scale at the enterprise level? There are many ways that we scale. One is COP, Community of Practices. We have lots of community of practices around DevOps, security, cloud, architecture, design, programming languages, test automation, etc. Office hours. We have an enterprise team, which is a collection of teams that support all these automation tools in a massive scale. There are office hours every day for 1 hour. The whole idea is, if you have a problem, if you have a question on any of these tools or how to build a pipeline, or if your Jenkins job is failing, or you don't know what happened to your Maven POM file, you come to these office hours and get your problems resolved. Voice of customer. We, weekly once, we have voice of customer, the customer being the development team, and the providers are providers of these automation platforms. They hear what the customer wants. Do they want a new tool? Do they want a new process? Is any process doing, creating some bottleneck that they cannot get their work done? So we hear those and try to solve for that. We also have an internal website called Pulse, which is our way to communicate within ourselves. And in that Pulse, we have a page called Got Goo, where people come and post their Goo list. What is causing problem for them? And then people actually take up at a higher level and try to solve for those. This is our internal Stack Exchange, where people post questions and answers them. And that is not all. Recently, we had our first software engineering conference. We have been working a lot. We have offices all over the place. So we thought that it's a good idea to get all the people in one place and hear their voice and build some personal relationship face to face. But what's striking is that it not only attracted developers. There are a few talks that came from our risks office that manages our risk across the enterprise. For me, as a DevOps enthusiast, my day was made when I saw these 2 slides that I want to share with you. OK, before that, let me go through the stats. It was for 2 days, 1,200 attendees, 13 learning tracks, 28 Tech Expo booths that are organized by our internal people, 52 sessions, 0 vendor. Thank you. Now, those 2 slides. Our risk officers came and presented this slide in one of the talks. We hear you that you need to push code more quickly. You need to understand the risk requirements earlier than later. So I think that was a big win for having this kind of conference and have the risk office come and talk to us. And this one, innovations in risk, hell yeah, that made my day. I'll end my talk with a short clip of that software engineering conference.
It is very, very rare that we get this much talent together in one place at one time, and it's great that we're coming to this conference and learning a bunch of stuff that's new and is going on in the engineering field. But I think the other big value of this is actually the building the relationships piece. And so I challenge you guys, by the time that the day is done, that you build a relationship with 3 folks that you've never worked with before.
today, why host a Capital One internal software engineering conference? And what does success look like for something like this? The technology organization, I hope you've noticed, has been increasingly investing in the technology organization. Right? That starts with the people, it includes our capabilities, and it includes the infrastructure. I find conferences are a great place to learn, and if I can get a nugget out of every session, I find it to be hugely valuable. In something like today, where your Capital One peers are telling you the things they're working on, the impediments they're hitting, the successes that they're having, it's actually applicable directly in our environment. So I hope that that's actually something that you also found today.
That's it. Thank you very much.
So I got to spend a couple days with Topo, and there was actually a piece of the story that you left off in terms of like how heroic the effort was to find a lawyer, internal counsel, instead of Capital One to support your cause. Could you just briefly tell us about that? Because I think you sort of underplayed just how heroic an effort that was.
Yes. So I think, and to start with, it was not that the lawyers were against us. They just didn't know what we were asking for. I think that is very important to communicate to them or any stakeholders in this process and let them understand what you are looking for. It's not just about, I want to use this open source and please approve that, because they don't know what it means, right? So this Al Sell, he's my awesome colleague, and he's like tall, right? He can make things happen, right from the get-go. And he had this burning desire actually to make things happen. So he wanted to meet the lawyer. It's just that he was getting frustrated. So that knocking on the door, I still remember seeing that in front of my eyes. Please open the door. Let me talk to you. I have this list of open source software that we have modified and we don't know what to do with it. So I think that was amazing. It shows you how motivated people are in this environment.
How many lawyers, internal counsel said no? I'm busy.
Initially, there used to be a lot. Now, actually, they are with us. They understand. And as I said, the risk management office is saying that we heard you, and what you are doing is the right thing to do, and let me help you.
So this vision of what's his name?
Al Sell.
Al, is that right? We're basically going door to door, talking to every lawyer, trying to find someone to adopt the cause.
Right.
It's just this astonishing story. Thank you so much.
Thank you.